weird. It's weird how everything, everywhere, is talking about GameStop, which was on its way out the door, and now it's international fucking news that everyone just knows and is commenting on it. It's healing wounds better than any politician could. I've never seen such unity between the far right and the far left at the same time. People gathering around to eat the rich. And I usually, when something is like so big like that, I don't like talking about it because it's all been said, right? Everyone has said their piece on the GameStop shit. But I also kind of look at my podcast as like a historical. So if people look back in time and listen to these podcasts like 4 years in advance when things have completely changed, we're at a state of war or something, no matter what happens, people can listen and be like, oh yeah, I kind of understand what's happening. So I try to assume nobody has any idea what the fuck's going on when I talk. So let me kind of explain the premise of this economic crisis which has begun. There's a subreddit called Wall Street Bets, and there's a board on 4chan called Biz, and they're both very like outside trader, kind of big into crypto. I don't know if Wall Street Bets is big into crypto, but Biz is like mostly crypto based. And then there's also the stock market general, where they go through a couple cycles during the open hours of Wall Street and the NASDAQ, and they just kind of speculate as outsiders on what to hedge bets on for both short-term money by gambling, essentially, versus long-term profits, which are slower but more predictable. So they have joined forces and pulling off a shakedown of a hedge fund. There's a group called Melvin Capital and Citrus Research, and Melvin Capital has already had financial issues, and they had to get $2 billion, I want to say, of bailout funds from their parent company. And Melvin Capital's big idea for making some money back to bail themselves out of their problematic financial situation was to short GameStop. Short the stock of GameStop. And if you don't know what a short is, very simply, I'm sure everyone's... I feel kind of bad explaining this because everyone's heard so much about this, but a short is when you sell a stock you do not own. Effectively, you borrow a stock from someone who has one, and you sell it at the market price. And your thinking is, I know that this stock is going to drop, and when the price of the stock drops, I'll buy it back at that lower price and return it from the person I borrowed it from, usually a broker. So you say, oh, GameStop is worth $20. I bet you by the end of this week, it'll be worth $10. So I'm going to borrow a bunch of GameStop stock. I'm going to sell it at $20, and in a week from now, I promise you, I will return your stock. And the idea is you'll have doubled your money, or gotten half of it back, all of it back plus more, because you'll be your position will be, you'll be buying it back for half of what you sold it for. That is the gist of what a short is. There are many interesting things about this particular short, right? So they have, for instance, the big one is that they have allegedly sold 250% of GameStop's equity, which should not be possible. That's called a naked short. That means you're selling something that does not exist, and that's technically illegal. So if they've broken the law in doing this, they've really f***ed themselves, because this is now international news. The crisis is this, that these hedge fund assholes borrowed $2 billion from their parent company, and then they said, we're going to sell 250% of this stock. And by the way, short sellers are not well liked in the stock market industry, because by borrowing the stock and selling it, you're actually tanking the price of the stock, because you're wiping out all the buy orders, all the buy orders, and the buy orders are what determine the price of the stock. So it's entirely possible to wipe out a huge amount of buy orders on GameStop by shorting it. And then you immediately, because you yourself, through your financial power, have crashed the value of the stock, you can then buy it back from the damage that you've caused in this stock, and then return it to the people you borrowed it from. So this harms people who are going long on the stock, who have faith in it. It harms the equity of the company. It harms the people who work at the company. It is predatory at its finest. And a lot of people will argue and say, no, short stocks are not predatory. They're just a symptom of the market. They're totally legitimate. A lot of people don't fucking like them. And if you are a short seller, a big name short seller, you will be threatened in your industry, because people will hate you for the damage that you do to the financial system. And Melvin Capital, this is a big thing. Someone mentioned it in Discord, but I'll bring it now. If you buy, for instance, right now I have a stock of GameStop. I bought it at the peak. I'm probably going to lose money. I don't care. The worst that can happen to me owning a piece of GameStop right now is that my $350 purchase of this stock might be worth $0 tomorrow. That's a possibility. So the maximum I can lose is everything. And that might seem like a lot, right? Surely I could lose everything, and that would suck. When you short a stock, because of how it works, you can actually lose a lot more than everything. If you buy $2 billion worth of GameStop stock at $20, and then suddenly it's worth $350 the next day, you've lost way more than 100% of the value of that stock. You've lost many, many times what it was worth before, and many, many times what you put into it. And that is the crisis that Melvin Capital and Citrus Research has found themselves in. These Redditors, these fucking weirdos from Reddit and 4chan, collaborating together to identify the fact that Melvin Capital did in fact short GameStop as much as they have, and then deciding to jack up the price and refuse to sell and refuse to lend to shorters, means that when they are forced contractually to buy that stock back, they're not buying it at twice the value. They're not buying it at 10 times the value. Right now, they are so over leveraged when they are required to buy this stock back. They're going to be buying it at 20 times, maybe even 100 times, because they're saying that the people on Reddit are saying, we're going to hold no matter what. We're going to buy millions of dollars worth of fucking GameStop, and we're going to sell it at $5,000. So Melvin Capital is now looking at a situation where they have sold stock at $20 with the expectation of it being $10, and now it might be worth $5,000, which is a sort of unprecedented failure. And it's not... The really crazy thing about how this works and what this shows is that none of this is based on reality. GameStop hasn't done some enormously fantastical thing to make retail physical game sales the next big thing. Nobody's going to malls. Nobody's going to GameStop. Nobody's buying physical copies of games. This is literally fucking pretend. GameStop does not matter. Someone described it as a rope that two people are pulling at either ends in a game of tug of war. You have the hedge fund, Melvin Capital, Wall Street bros, and then you have 100 million fucking pulling it at the other end. The fact, whatever the rope is made of, if it's GameStop or AMC or whatever the fuck, it really doesn't matter. And that should be a wake-up call that it's people playing a game that they made with rules that they can change, and it means fucking nothing. And yet these are the numbers that people prop up and say, look, the economy is doing so great. NASDAQ is up 50% today. Isn't that wonderful? The economy is doing so great. Our GDP numbers are so high. That means that we're the best country. It means literally fucking nothing. It is all pretend. Money's money, but this should show people how pathetic this entire system is. When you can sell something that you don't own, and not only which you do not own, but which does not exist and cannot exist, so that you can buy it back at a later date and make money off of it by doing absolutely fucking nothing except gambling. That's crazy. That's less like gambling makes sense. You can't gamble what you don't own. unless you're trying to get your fucking kneecaps broken. You can't, a casino cannot pay out more than they have. But for some reason, Wall Street, the rules don't apply. You can gamble whatever the fuck you want as long as you have the leverage, and you can buy it all back the next day if you really want to. GDP is not based on stuff. I know what GDP is. I'm just saying that these numbers do not fucking matter. They are all fictitious. They're all bullshit, and they do not indicate the health or anything about society or a nation or its economy. It's literally just fucking bullshit that they can swing and manipulate to their heart's content. So I have some content here to go over regarding this. Hopefully everything looks right. So when this started happening, it made a lot of people's heads turn, because it's like, oh, here we have a situation where a company is out potentially $20 billion. That's the rough estimate. The high rough estimate is that they are now out $20 billion. So then all these market analysts start coming out saying, oh, this is terrible. And they said it was rooted in like racism and misogyny. And I have one that's particularly funny, but here's an opinion piece by Mark Holber, who says, why short sellers dumping GameStop puts Reddit followers and other day traders at greater risk. So there's been several pieces of people saying that you shouldn't doubt the short seller. Basically, it's healthy for the economy. I'm not going to read this, but it's basically just fucking bitching, saying that this is like a right-wing Gamergate fucking thing. The short sellers are throwing in towels on stocks like GameStop, which may simply be recognizing that the market can stay irrational longer than they are able or willing, giving margin calls and funding constraints to stick to their trades. So one would certainly not want to conclude from such behavior on the part of the short sellers at this point that they think GameStop and other previously heavily shorted stocks are now fairly valued. Basically saying that the value is going to crash. And that's only if people start selling the stock. And the big thing is saying we have diamond hands. We're never going to sell the stock. We're going to sell it $5,000. You're going to pay us whatever the fuck we say you're going to pay us. And what's the other one? Oh, their motto, we can stay longer than you can stay solvent. Basically, we can throw all our money away. We don't give a fuck. But you have obligations. You have constraints. So this is this is information on the leveraging of short data. So you can see here, right around the 27th, it's at 140%. And that is because, this is relevant because Melvin went on to MSNBC, CNBC, and they said, we've closed all our positions. It's all over now. Sorry, bye-bye. And it's not true. You can look at the data and tell for sure that they have not closed their positions. And if they're not the ones holding this fucking stock and trying to short it, someone is. And by the way, when a media company comes out and says lies, complete bullshit, saying that someone has closed their positions when they have not, when it's not possible for them to do that, that's called market manipulation. So CNBC and whoever the fuck is spreading this information that they've not shorted, they closed their positions, that's criminal. That should be criminal. So they're that's immediately how desperate they become, is that this potential $20 billion loss has forced them to commit crimes, because I guess ending up in jail for however many years is probably a better deal than losing $20 billion, right? The reaction, and by the way, this kind of shows that all these people know each other and they all work together. E-Trade confirms that it halted GameStop and AMC stock, but we'll let you buy some Friday. So the reaction from companies that run outsider trading platforms like E-Trade and Robinhood, and there was another one, they halted the sale of GameStop stock. And in Robinhood's case, they even said that they will sell your stock for you without your permission for your own good. And how that's legal is unknown. And if it isn't legal, that again shows that they are willing to break the law to help their positions, because that's what, it's so much money that going to jail would potentially be a less disastrous consequence than having this firm collapse, right? And the result of Robinhood closing new positions and saying that they were going to sell your stock for you was a class action lawsuit, which was so heavily viewed that it crashed Pacer. And Pacer is the government website used to view federal proceedings, or criminal cases and civil dockets. So many people went to go see the text of this class action lawsuit, which they may be able to benefit from, that it crashed this website. So here's some clips that I have regarding this one's great. I don't look at this guy, look at this fucking asshole, and just listen to his voice, watch his demeanor.
I mean, I think it's kind of obvious people can not only see the emotion on your face, but hear it in your voice when you talk about this, Lee. Why?
I care. That's it.
That's it. That's all he has to say. So I'm gonna do a thing. Can I put up both the? No, it's only the Discord. Unfortunately, I was gonna try to put them both up. So I guess I'll watch both chats, but I do want to see. Press 1 if you think that this man cares. Press 2 if you think this man is out a cut of $20 billion. I want to see what does chat think. Are his tears genuine? Does this man bleed for America? Oh, 2. I'm overwhelmed by 2s. Everyone knows that this man speaks. That's crazy. Do you guys feel bad for him? Do you guys feel bad for these hedge fund guys who are out $20 billion? I want to know, does anyone, I'll even watch, it's going so fast, I don't know if I can even pick out any of this, but does anyone have any defense of any of these people? Because this is a rare occasion where it's like, eat the rich on one side, and then the hedge funds people are Jews, so the right doesn't like them either. That's the dichotomy here, where they both seem united, and they're utter fucking contempt. And even people who are just like centrists, who like manage their money, who pay attention to these kinds of things, who are concerned about the state of the economy, they look at it and say, oh, the short sellers, they're sharks. Why would I give a about them losing money? It's truly beautiful. So the reaction from even the government, now White House advisors are looking into the situation. The SEC is looking into regulating this more, saying, and it's like, what are they going to do? Are they going to ban outsider trading? If you're not verified kosher, you can't fucking trade anymore. Is that the reaction? And the people advising GameStop and the brokerage companies about what to do with this, they have financial ties to these organizations. It's utterly corrupt to the very fucking bone, and it's just great. Here's another video. Oh, this one's from my man. Forget what the his name is. It doesn't matter. This bald guy, though. There will always be a place in my heart for when this guy went on to the Daily Show back when Jon Stewart hosted it. Mad Money, I forget his name. And this was right after the 2008 housing bubble. And Mr. Mad Money was sitting there telling people about how they should invest and blah, 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 their 401k, their stock markets. And he was doing all this goofy shit on his stage, pressing buttons that had like loud sound effects and shit. And Jon Stewart brought this man to fucking tears on his thing. Because he said, like, dude, my mom, old lady in her 80s, 90s, or whatever, she lost everything. Her 401k is worth fucking nothing now. And you're sitting there like pressing the honky horn button on your fucking Mad Money program on CNBC. Like, there's real consequences for your bullshit and playing fucking games on the stock market. And it's really great. What the fuck is his name? Jon Stewart joined Twitter just to yell at Wall Street. I do miss Jon Stewart. John is my favorite Jewish person. He is... He always seems like Jim Cramer. The only thing that I've ever heard anyone say bad about Jon Stewart is that he infantilized the news in a way. By integrating news with entertainment in the way he did, he set the stage for your Don Lemons and just like stupid bullshit where dumbass motherfuckers make who's the other guy? John Oliver. They blame that on Jon Stewart, but Jon Stewart himself I quite like. Anyways, here's Jim Cramer being I think he's the voice of reason in this clip. Whatever, we'll play it.
Concentrated and doing some sort of manipulation if they say they like the stock?
Well, I don't know if they're concentrated because I don't have subpoena power and I can't really go out and look at it. I could argue I don't even know if there are foreign powers at work here behind the scenes trying to make chaos of our markets.
Let me ask you this.
So he's saying that it's like a coordinated thing. When people accuse them of market manipulation, that's the big thing. They're market manipulating to make money. It's like, no, they just really like the stock. That's the rebuttal. They're not manipulating shit. And this guy goes a step further and says, they're not just market manipulators, they're fucking foreign agents. They're working on behalf of China to manipulate GameStop. And I'm almost done with this, I promise. But here's another clip. Former SEC Commissioner Laura Unger compares short squeeze, which is what they call it when you buy a bunch of stocks to fuck up a short. It's called a short squeeze. Compares the short squeeze to January 6th at the Capitol.
It really puts a lot of question about the integrity of the market, right? And it really kind of, everybody's scratching their heads over this. What should happen? What is the right thing to do to control this or stop this? Not unlike what we saw on January 6th at the Capitol, right? If you don't have the police in there at the right time, things go a little crazy. And that's kind of feels like what's happening with this. Much different, much lesser degree. It's financial harm, not personal bodily harm. But certainly that's the same kind of, platform created frenzy that people are operating under. And these are very trying times. It really puts
but trying
a lot
times
of,
for who?
Question about the
you know what I
integrity
mean?
of the
Everyone
market,
seems to be having
right?
fun with this, except for the fucking hedge fund guys who stand to lose $20 billion because for some reason a walk-in game rental company that is going down the tubes is now worth billions more than it used to be. Everyone else seems to be okay with it. So they're really stretching, and I have this article lined up as well because this guy, I even sent him a tweet, and I'll read my tweet because why not? I said in reply to this, very interesting, desperate, grasping article by John Tamney arguing in favor of short sellers. But here's the truth, John. No one thinks this is awesome because of some economic theory. They just want to eat you alive, John. Tell your friends, them too. And that's true. People just want to see John Tamney. John Tamney. They want to see whoever the John Tamney is suffer at the hands of retards wearing fedoras and eating like shit out of a tin, sitting in their underwear in like some comfy gamer den paid for with Bitcoin. They just want to see those people eat these people alive. He says, ignore the populist GameStop hype. So I guess this is a populist movement now, which we only associate with bad things. Only bad things are popular. Short sellers are heroes. I'm not going to read this, but the gist of what he's saying is that in 2007, you had the housing market collapse, and there was and he goes over the plot basically of The Big Short, where this guy recognizes that these market positions are over leveraged, the mortgages are going to go down, and are going to go down because people are being delinquent, and he shorts the market in order to make billions and billions and billions of fucking dollars. That's what he's saying. He said that guy is a hero because his actions cause people to reconsider their mortgages, and somehow in his Big Short helps save the economy from an even greater collapse because of whatever fucking logic. And it's all bullshit. It really is. Like, no, these people are not fucking heroes. That guy would not have taken that information and then applied it in some generous way if there was not billions of dollars attached to it. He wouldn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? He would probably tell his friends and family to not give out mortgages at their banks. But he doesn't. Look, no. It's just a man making money off other people's failures. That's all it is. That's not heroism. So fuck you, John Tamney. And people, I really hope, this can be compared to Capitol Hill in some way, because I think it shows, like in Capitol Hill, that yeah, people are pissed off and they might become violent. It's like with this, people are pissed off at how the economy is and how completely inaccessible to them the economy is, and now they want to eat you fucking people alive. And maybe it scares them in that way, and that's why these articles are coming out. But this was funny. I just threw this in because it's funny to me. you can see booking information, like what prices people are willing to sell their stocks at, are public. And someone pointed out that there's like 13,000 GameStop shares for sale at $420. And then there's an additional 1,000 for sale at $420.69. And he's saying, don't do that because that's too low. Pull those sale orders. I put my sale order for my one share of GameStop at $4,200.69, which is more based and red pilled.